Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Hey organic farmers, the clock is ticking. If you're fed up with fake organics flooding the market and driving prices down, and you want to protect the integrity of what you grow, now's the time to act. The Real Organic Project is a farmer-led, no-cost, add-on certification that helps farmers like us stand out, showing eaters at our farms are the real deal, soil-grown, pasture-raised, and rooted in the original spirit of the organic movement. The deadline to apply is Tuesday, April 15th. Don't wait. Visit realorganicproject.org/apply and join the 1,000-plus farmers fighting to keep organic honest and thriving. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. And today my guest is Devon Wilson, founder and farmer of Sunlight Gardens, a 2-acre organic urban farm in Battle Creek, Michigan. Devon started Sunlight Gardens to increase access to fresh, local food and inspire the next generation of farmers through their Fresh Corner store, community events, and Farm Squad youth program. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, my friend.
Hey, absolutely. So give us a little bit of background of how did you get started in the farming world?
Yeah, so for me, it started when I was around 11 years old. I really started to use the internet a little bit more, and I was always a curious kid. And so I would say it was a mixture of, well, let me back up a little bit. So my family did have a lot of diet-related illness issues. And so I got to, see my grandmother, especially like both my grandmothers on my mom and dad's side, really struggling with diabetes specifically. And then cancer crept its way into my family as well. And so, yeah, as a curious young kid, first getting his hands on the internet and everything, I kind of just start asking these questions. Why are we having these health problems? I start, really getting curious and kind of connecting the dots and realizing, okay, all the food that we have available in our community is pretty low quality. And, I'm watching my family, suffer from being in this environment. And so, connecting that and then the research I was doing, like understanding the chemicals that we use in agriculture are tied to different illnesses and things like that. It put me in the mindset where I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be proud of the food that I'm feeding my community and feeding to my family and that we're all eating together, I think I have to grow it myself. And so that's kind of where that was like the launch pad. And from there, I just really started to, look anywhere I could to get my hands in the soil. I had I didn't have a family that had a farm or anything like that. I was just growing up in Battle Creek, Michigan over here. And so, I just got curious. I said, you know what? I got to get to a farm.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So then talk a little bit about Battle Creek. What zone or growing zone are you?
We're 6B now.
Okay. So you're a little bit warmer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is this? You're inside the city limits?
Yeah, definitely. We're like 5 minutes away from our downtown area. I like to say we're downtown farm. Essentially, we're actually in the Washington Heights neighborhood.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so, all right, so you said you need to get to a farm. Was there a period that you were doing any internship or apprenticeship, or did you just dive right in?
Yeah, most definitely. I actually did I worked on 2 different farms. So the first was more of a nonprofit community-based farm, and then the other one was actually a 15-acre organic production farm. And so it was actually a good blend because I got to understand kind of the nonprofit side of things and how that worked. But then I got a big awakening, right? Going to see the production farm and how much more it was, okay, we're on a budget. We have to meet these certain deadlines and like the food is our operation. And we're dependent on making a profit off of this food. And so yeah, it was a great kind of, getting my feet in both worlds a bit, because I think what we do now is almost a blend of kind of nonprofit we are a for-profit business at Sunlight Gardens.
Correct.
But I would say we do some things that kind of fall under that nonprofit category. And we could talk more about that later. But so yeah, that was where I kind of got my footing at.
Cool. Okay, and so then how did you get on the property you are now?
Yeah, so after working on those farms for a little bit, when I was about 19 years old, I actually took a trip to Hawaii, and I wanted to. It's so funny because the whole reason I went, and people laugh at me, but it was actually to try the white pineapple. I wanted to try the white pineapple.
Really?
It's a certain type of pineapple that doesn't have any acidity to it, and like I'm like, oh, man, I gotta try. Pineapple was my favorite fruit growing up.
Yeah.
One of the few fruits I enjoyed growing up. And so, yeah, I went out there, and also I wanted to learn more about tropical growing and, you know, see a different side of how things grow over there. Ended up being very spiritual in a way. I think I found, connected deeper with, you know, the essence of like who I am, and kind of just saw a different attitude of people, right? Like here in Battle Creek, I mean, I'm growing up in a low income neighborhood and everything like that. And it was, you know, the default is almost like people struggling, right? People kind of hanging their head a little bit. Everybody's kind of got that one man army mentality. And when I went to Hawaii, I noticed it was like everybody's default was happy in a way. Like people were just naturally happy. When you walk down the street, people said hi to each other, right? Like just a much more welcoming environment. I guess it opened my heart and opened my mind to just like, you know, it doesn't have to be how things have been for me growing up. You know, there's more to life. And kind of the conclusion I came to was like, man, I feel like these people are just happier because, well, and it's probably a number of things, but like one of the things, it was like, it's just beautiful all around, right? Like you're driving to Walmart and it's like you're looking at the ocean and these cliffs and kind of naturally surrounded by beauty. And so yeah, I just going over there, it really opened me up to, you know, how kind of living in harmony with nature and being around beauty and things like that can really affect your day to day, maybe more than we give credit to. And so, yeah, I came back and I guess I was inspired. I think I was feeling charged up. I had worked on some farms out there. So I worked on two different, I'm sure you're familiar with woofing, the work trade.
Absolutely.
So I was doing that. I went to two different sites. They were both basically permaculture fruit farms. And man, just met some really amazing people. And so, yeah, I come back, I'm charged up, you know, I'm like, okay, I want to start a farm. But I had no land.
Wait a minute. Did you try the white pineapple?
You know, it's so funny. So I went in the wrong season.
Oh no.
But I did get to try some frozen white pineapple. It was epic. I highly recommend it.
Okay. What is the season? So when I do go during the right season.
So you want to go during the spring, summertime.
Okay.
I went during the winter. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Back to your story. Sorry. I got really worried.
Important note there. So yeah, I come back. I'm like, okay, you know, I want to start a farm, but I don't have any money, right? I don't have much. I don't have any money. I don't have any land in my family. I just have, you know, my network that I've kind of built by just getting on those farms in the beginning. And so essentially what I did, Michael, was I just started farming anywhere I could. So I had a friend who had a side lot. And then I also had a friend who owned a flower farm. And she had about 4 acres and she was doing different events and flower farming. So long story short, I basically did a work trade to get some land on these different properties. And so I would say farming on about, you know, 3/4 of an acre, not even a full acre, and basically aggregating everything up and then taking it to market. So I was doing at one of our local markets. And that's how I started. So I did that for a while. And I mean, as it sounds, right, it's like not very sustainable. And I definitely had an off-farm job at the time. I was working at a sushi bar, serving tables. And doing that for a while. And like I said, just so people know, like it was work trade. Like I wasn't exchanging money for either of these spaces that I was farming in. I was just exchanging either work, like at the flower farm, I would help her till, I would help her, you know, bag up leaves, things like that. And then my friend, I would just give him, like, I would let him harvest from the garden, and I would just let him know, like, hey, Friday night, Saturday morning, I'm gonna be coming to harvest for the market. And so did that for about 2 seasons.
Okay.
And then one of the farms that the nonprofit farm I was talking about that I first worked at, actually became available to purchase. And
Okay.
so through a grant from our local community foundation, very grateful that we were able to utilize that. We used that to buy the property actually. And so,
Okay.
yep, it was 2 acres. We ended up paying about $12,000 for the 2 acres, which was a pretty good deal because there were the bones of about 2 hoop houses there.
Okay.
And there was some field work like that had already been done, but I will say like it had sat vacant for about 6-7 years, up until we were farming on it. So it was it was a jungle, it was a jungle when we got it. It was a bit overgrown. And so, yeah, that was at the end of 2020. And so, we've been really just cleaning that spot out and working from there ever since.
Okay. Okay, so then once you got onto the property, what kind of was like the first steps to kind of do that clean out?
Yeah, so, man, it was really scrappy for a while. It was just, me kind of doing the same thing I have been doing. Okay, I had some spots where I could grow, so I was just growing, taking things to market. And yeah, man, it got to a point where I'm like, okay, now I'm farming on this 2 acres. And it wasn't like we were growing on every square foot of the acreage. Probably about 1 acre, in farm, and that was actually planted. And so from there, I was working it by myself for not very long, probably, up until May of that 2021 season. And I really I just put it out there, and I don't know if like you're a big manifestation guy, things like that, but I really, I put it out there and I was like, I need more help. I was like, I need some assistance. I can't do this all on my own anymore. And man, it was like clockwork. I had 2 guys hit me up, actually through Instagram, that said, hey, we're just interested to learn. And so, I'll if it's okay, I want to shout these guys out because they're really pivotal in the farm. My farm manager currently, Jerry Olds, and then Carl Henderson helps us out with our social media now at this point. But in that time, these 2 guys were really just willing to help me out on the farm to learn. They wanted to learn how to grow their own food. And that was great for me because, I'm all about encouraging people to grow their own anyway. And it's like, wow, you're going to help me just for showing you how to plant and things like that. So it was a really good situation. And so they worked with me for free for a season in exchange for the knowledge. And then that actually positioned me to be able to bring these guys on to our staff and pay them to work the next season. Okay. So now they've been working with me ever since. And they're still a part of the team. And I give those guys a lot of credit because it would have definitely taken me a lot longer to get to the point I am now if they weren't willing to just say like, hey, Devon, like you need some help, we're down, just teach us how to grow.
That's awesome. Yeah, because getting hands-on experience is the best way, and they knew there was a farm that they could really help get to the next step, which is awesome to hear.
For sure.
All right, so then talk a little bit about like you have an on-farm store. Is it talk a little about that?
Yeah, definitely. So the on-farm store, so the 2 acres that we purchased was previously a church, and there was a shed on adjacent to the church building. The church building got knocked down.
Okay.
But the shed remained, and it was just a small brick building, and you can see pictures of it on our social media and stuff. But essentially, we were using it just as a wash pack / storage spot. And something I realized was, so we're in a low-income area, a food desert, food apartheid, however you look at it. And one thing I realized was like, we're growing this food here and taking it to the market and selling it. And it's like, I don't see any of my neighbors going to the market. We're kind of taking this food out of the community and then going to sell it to people who really already have the access to it and the knowledge and the know-how. And so that didn't feel the best to me, right? Because like I said, I got into this like because of my family's health issues and things like that. We really want to, get the food to people who need it most and who, may not otherwise have the exposure, have the access to it. And I don't want it to be taken the wrong way. Like, I love the farmer's market. I think the farmer's market is one of the most amazing places. Like, brings so many great people together, just the best vibes, But yeah, for us, it was like, we're not seeing our community here. We're not seeing our neighborhood here. So that was really the kind of the birth of the idea of like, let's do an on-farm store. We want to give people that connection to the farm, a place where they can come to the farm and interface with it, right? Because when you're working, you're packing stuff up, you're trying to get ready to market, like you're not in the mood to like give somebody a tour, stop everything you're doing, give somebody a tour and things like that. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be interfacing with our community as well. And it kind of goes back to like how I was seeing in Hawaii, people have these beautiful surroundings, they're more happy. That's a part of, I guess how I look at urban farming is it can almost have that effect, right? You're breaking up just the abandoned houses, you're the homeless people down the street, and you see the same things that can kind of bring you down a little bit. So I think when you see these vibrant green spaces, you see people working hard, you see plants growing, it does something for the neighborhood. And then on top of that, we want people to not just be able to only look at it, but come in, try some of the stuff we're growing and ask those questions. So that was the idea behind it. And I'm like, okay, we have this building here. And it's a strong brick building, but it definitely needed a lot of work at the time. I think we have a video on our Instagram of us kind of rehabbing it. And you could see like there was a random like half wall in there. There's a hole in the roof, so water was getting in a little bit. And so it needed a lot of work. And so this is something that I like to, tell to like urban farmers, younger, like beginning farmers is like, dream out loud, put your ambitions into the atmosphere and kind of, don't give away your whole secret sauce and your plan and everything necessarily, but let it be known what you're trying to do. And I say that because I wanted to do this store and we had a group of volunteers out on the farm. And I'm just talking about it. The people asking me, well, what are you going to do, Devon? You got this building to hear this. So I'm like, I want to do this store. Long story short, the right person heard it. And they said, you know what, Devon? I think we can help you do that. Let's talk about it. Let's see what you need to make it happen. And like, do you have a solid plan? Do you think this is going to work out? And what that conversation evolved into was actually a $25,000 donation.
Oh, wow.
So, very grateful. And I realize that is, very kind of a rare case, but saying that to say like, that would have never happened if I wasn't dreaming out loud, if I wasn't like, allowing those volunteer opportunities, allowing people to come to the farm and building the network, creating those connections. And it's funny too, because it was actually, Kellogg and United Way came together to make that happen. With that donation, we were able to fix up the roof. We were able to, install completely new flooring, buy coolers and shelf space and equipment for the store, inventory. We built a cooler system in the back, fixed up our bathroom. I mean, really got the building in nice shape. And then we were able to launch kind of what we call our fresh corner store. It's an incredible blessing that they were so willing to donate that. And I think, again, part of it is like being ambitious, telling your story, dreaming out loud, and don't just farm in a silo. Like, it's so easy to just put your head down and grind and try. I did that for years, but being more open and it's interesting what we do, right? We're growing food, we're making a living from the earth, and we're feeding people. So people feel a natural connection to that. And that's just, I mean, that's why I was so thankful. Even you invited me to do this podcast and things like this, right? Like this, I would have never thought I'd be doing this when I was 19, coming back from Hawaii. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm doing podcasts about farm. Like, this is epic. And so it's just, like, I think that is an important thing, is just like, put yourself out there and let people know, what you're doing if you want them to get involved. And so, one more thing I'll say about the store, too, is just like, we were intentional when creating it because, again, right, we weren't seeing our community at the farmer's market. And that was the kind of the philosophy behind starting the store. And so when we made the store, kind of followed these three principles. And it's like, I call it the 3 Fs. And it's really just keeping things fun, familiar, and flavorful. Keep it fun, familiar, flavorful. And I feel like that's engaging. That's a way to make people feel like this is for me and I do belong, and like meeting people where they are rather than, hey, come to this farm stand. It's all salads and green smoothies and things like this. Yeah. That could scare somebody to never even want to come. Oh, that's not for me. I don't do that. So we intentionally made our store very much resemble a liquor store, and it's kind of and it sounds funny, and obviously we don't sell any liquor, right? We're selling groceries, produce, drinks, snacks, things like that. But it's a familiar scenery, and we also have some of those products like kids love hot chips and sour candy and things like this. So it's like, we can have those things, but they can be healthy. We don't have to just eat the super processed versions of it. We can do, a sweet drink that's made with real sugar. We can do a spicy chip that's made with real chili pepper. And so that's kind of the philosophy of the store, is like making it fun, familiar, and flavorful, and an inviting environment that doesn't feel so out of the ordinary, feel so different. Yeah. And something that people can come in and really connect with.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit, because you got the store and I got the pictures of that, which is really cool. But you also have a pavilion on the site that you rent that out?
Yeah. So the pavilion is actually our venue space. And, again, making things fun, familiar, flavorful. Like, so we have events, and all of our events are based around helping people build that relationship with their food. And then, we also do open it up for organizations or individuals, right? If you want to do a company outing, you want to do a birthday party. And so we open it up as a venue, and for numerous reasons. I mean, it's a beautiful space to hold events, but, agritourism is a great revenue driver, great stream of revenue. And we could talk more about this too, but I really think it's one thing I love to kind of just ponder and reflect on is like, what is the highest potential of urban agriculture, right? And, we do have obviously rural and urban ag. And for me, it's like, I've been an urban farmer my whole career, but it wasn't necessarily by choice, right? It was just, this is the area I had to farm on. I didn't have the 40 acres or whatever in my family. Correct. And so I am very interested in, what can urban farms do really well and what can rural farms do really well. And my goal eventually is, I do want to obviously be growing as much food as possible. So I would love to be rural farming one day. But first I want to figure out, what is the highest potential of urban farming. And so, agritourism, I think, is for sure one of those highlights, because you're right in the neighborhood. People are driving by it. People are going out of their house and looking at it. And that proximity to your community, the more that we can benefit from that and use that to our advantage, and, allow the community to use our farm to their advantage, right? Since we're right there. And that's kind of the idea behind it, is just making it a fun venue, opening it up, and understanding, what is the highest function of urban ag and what things can we do better than a rural farm could do potentially.
All right. So what are the dimensions of that?
So that's 1,500 square feet.
Wow. So that's a big pavilion. So is that like 40 by 40 approximately, or?
It's like 30 by 50.
30 by, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. We are building one that's 20 by 32. So that's actually significantly smaller. Well, here's the thing. If I had known the work we would have gone through to get it operational and all that, we would have probably built it much bigger. We built it as an ag structure, and then the city came back and said, actually, it's not an ag structure. It needs to be a commercial structure. So literally, it's been sitting half done for the last 4 months while they figure that out.
Oh, wow.
And so I've spent, I got the bill the other day, is $3,600 for the commercial stamp drawings for it. So you're in Battle Creek, but I mean, for building that, you probably had to do the drawings and all that. Like when you built your store, you had to get that health inspected and all that.
Yeah, most definitely. And we are operating under a special use permit because we are in a residential area, but we have a special use permit, and it's pretty open-ended, I would say. It's written to allow us to do, hopefully we feel like we've thought of everything that we might need in there, but I'm sure there's something that'll come up where it's like, man, we should have did that. But
so how did you get that special use? Who did you sit down with to write that?
Yeah, so luckily, in full transparency, the special use permit was obtained by the nonprofit that was there before us.
Yes.
But since I was working there, I was kind of a part of that process, and it was really just, in the simplest terms, it was like writing a plan. And I remember like we actually drew the farm. It was just all hand drawn. We drew a picture of the farm. And so we drew a picture of kind of what it was going to look like, what we wanted to do. And then we wrote a description. And then we had to go in front of the city commission and get it approved by our city commission.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah. So they really worked with you to make it happen.
Oh, 100%, and I gotta shout them out too, because even till this day, I mean, our city government is very supportive of us. I mean, we still, like you just said, like you run into stuff all the time. Like we were trying to build a deer fencing, and like I've never seen people so passionate about deer fencing and telling us we couldn't do it and this and that. But we are lucky to have a couple guys in the city who I think really believe in the project and kind of go to bat for us. And that, that was just through building those relationships also, man. But I'm very grateful for that, because I'm sure they could make it a lot harder for us than they have. Yeah,
gotcha. Talk a little bit about, I believe you had like a fellowship and you went to Japan. Talk a little bit about what that was and how that happened.
Most definitely, yeah. So they're totally unrelated. The fellowship was a leadership training.
Okay.
Yep, 18 months. And so I'm in Battle Creek. So WK Foundation's actually headquartered in Battle Creek. And yeah, they invited me to be a part of the fellowship. It was a lot of techniques and training on how to manage people, how to, problem solve, conflict resolution in community. And man, I would say the probably the most valuable part for me was really networking with the other fellows. So there's 80 fellows.
Oh, wow.
In 4 different places. So, we have Michigan, New Mexico, Mississippi, and New Orleans. And so, man, just being around these incredible individuals, and it's all different leaders, in different industries and sectors. I mean, there's poets, there's facilitators, healthcare professionals, teachers, and, you name it, and pretty diverse group. So it was just really a blessing to be able to be around these people, learn from them. And I would say graduating from that program has really been a great, reassurance of being a leader. Like I think before this program, I probably wouldn't have been comfortable like referring to myself as a leader necessarily. And so going through this, it's very affirming, and it has, given me that foundation of skills to embrace that and yeah, you know, just continue the journey. Like it obviously doesn't stop with that program, but just continue the journey to be a better leader in my business and community, family, you know, and so on. So yeah, really, really great program and great people. And then man, Japan. So yeah, Japan was incredibly interesting trip. It was actually more of a personal research trip.
Okay.
So, and you know, people are interested. It's fairly cheap to travel to Japan right now. Our USD is highly valued over there.
So what were tickets?
So the round trip ticket was about $1,500, and then once you get there, right? I mean, I think it's even better now. Like our value is still going up, but I would get like a full meal, you know, drink, appetizer, dessert, and it's like $12. You know, like
Wow.
yeah, incredibly affordable.
Yeah.
So the reason that I wanted to go there is I found out Japan, they're exceptional at doing urban agriculture. With their cities being so robust and everything, they are kind of forced to do that. And I believe the statistic is like 1/3 of all the food consumed in Japan is grown through urban agriculture. And so, you know, I went there, and it was funny because before I went, I tried to hit up these farms and email all these farms, and like, I don't know Japanese. Like, I don't know like if my emails are even going through to these people. And so I get there, and you know, no one's emailed me back. I don't have any leads. I'm like, man, like I'm in Japan. Like, I just want to get on some farms and like see what's going on. So I, you know, basically my only lead was I knew of a farmer's market in Tokyo. And I visited the farmer's market, and I met this English guy who who made knives. And he made these beautiful knives. I'm talking to him about his knives and, you know, how he, you know, gets to steal from these, you know, special sources, and everything's very curated. And, you know, if you know anything about Japan, they're very intentional and take their work seriously with anything they do. And so, you know, it really interesting. I'm like, you know, this guy seems really cool. Let me just shoot my shot. Let me see if I can make a connection. So I'm like, hey, do you know any farms here that you could connect me with? You know, I kind of told him my story and everything. And long story short, he connects me with a farmer there named Toshi. Incredible guy. And he runs Ome Farm and Kitchen. So Ome is like a neighboring city to Tokyo. And Toshi was probably the best guy I could have met over there. Like, he invited me to his farm off just that introduction. He said, you know what, come by, come work with us. And so the next, I think it was the next 2 days, I traveled to Ome, worked on his farm for a whole day, helped them harvest, helped them put up some row cover, and met the crew there. And just incredible human beings, incredibly passionate about what they do, very interesting, very curious about America and how we do things over here. And it was a great day. I worked with them for the full day, and then we shared a meal together at the end of the day, all, you know, mostly grown on the farm. And at the you know, as I was leaving, they connected me with 2 other farmers.
Awesome.
And so I eventually get to visit farms in Kyoto. One of my friends, Mitsuki, he is a young farmer over there. And then I forget the other gentleman's name, but he was an older gentleman, and he had an incredible farm that was sourcing a lot of like high Michelin star restaurants. So they were growing kind of specialty crops like black soybeans. And he was really explaining how, you know, he grows for flavor. He grows for, you know, high-end chefs and things like that. So yeah, I got to visit 3 farms in total, and I visited a couple other markets there, and man, just really blown away by my time there.
So the farmers, did you use like Google Translate or some sort of, did you be able to talk to them, or did they speak English, or?
Yeah, so the older gentleman did not speak English, so we actually, but Mitsuki is actually an English teacher. So he spoke incredible English.
Yeah.
And so he was translating for us. And then Toshi spoke English as well. And a lot of his workers actually spoke English also.
Oh, okay.
And so Toshi connected me with Mitsuki. And yeah, they all spoke incredible English actually.
Okay. All right. So of going over there, what kind of techniques or what was your takeaways with like how they were growing food?
You know, it's very interesting. One of my big takeaways was actually like, it's pretty similar over here to Michigan, believe it or not.
Okay.
A lot of their soil is similar to what we have here, their climate. They're a bit warmer over there, but it was similar too. They get a little bit of snow. But I would say one of my big takeaways was kind of what I mentioned earlier, is just the intention behind everything that they do feels very intentional. It was like, you know, they care about what they do, and they almost they have this joy about their work that is infectious for sure. Like it was refreshing to see that. I think you know, I see a lot of farmers in my area that are kind of struggling and things like that. And it's real too. Like, don't get me wrong, I've been there, you know, I'm dealing with some of that right now, but it was very refreshing to see, you know, them obviously, you know, because even some of the challenges that they had were similar to some of the things that we're facing here. Like one of them being, you know, farming not being looked at as a viable career path or something noble in a way, like similar to, you know, how we went through, you know, slavery here and things like that. In Japan, the farmers were kind of looked at as a servant class. And so it was very interesting to see them kind of reclaiming that. And I think that's a lot of what we do at Sunlight Gardens is taking back our power through agriculture and using agriculture as a superpower rather than something of like, you know, oh, you're working in the field all day, you know, that's like a slavery type of thing. And it's real, you know, we have people with that mindset. And so it was very interesting to see that was reflected there, you know, across the world too. So yeah, that was beautiful. And then also to see how at Ome Farm specifically, you could tell that because it's Ome Farm and Kitchen, and they had a restaurant as well. So just the value add to your product and doing more than just growing and going to market, I could really tell that they were looking to create a sustainable ecosystem and be able to like do more than just grow the food and sell it.
Okay, so then the kitchen, were they just taking the product directly from the fields, and then from the kitchen, did they have a restaurant on site that people could eat at?
Yeah, it wasn't on site, but yeah, it was like 15 minutes away.
Okay, all right. So then they're providing, and then what kind of, was it just traditional Japanese food that they were making?
So what I witnessed, they were growing carrots and turnip greens is what I actually helped them harvest.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. All right. And then talk a little bit about, you talked about in Japan, it's not really, you know, they don't say it's a career path. So were most of these folks just farming urbanly and just on the nights and weekends? Or I'm assuming some of the farms you visited were full-time.
Yeah. These guys were full-time. And I would say they were definitely reclaiming their power through agriculture. And they looked at it more as, you know, their career and their lifestyle, I would say. But they also, they said, you know, like, they're in the rare crowd. They're the outliers. Like over there, it's a lot of, I mean, it's like New York City on steroids, Tokyo, right?
Okay. Yes.
It's the biggest city in the world. And so, you know, the rat race is very much going on. People, you know, trying to be in software development, and similar things that I see here in the US is like, there's not a lot of young kids excited. Like, I want to be a farmer. I want to, you know, go down that path.
Well, aren't they also suffering a population collapse?
They are, yeah. And that's an interesting element to it too, because there's a lot of land over there that's available and it's cheap.
Okay.
And so, yeah, like I say, they were really taking their power back. Like Ome Farms, you could tell they were kind of just expanding as they could, and they didn't actually own any of their land, but they were just opening new leases, and they would lease out a plot, farm it, get it in production, and open a new plot. So really similar to how we do in urban agriculture. Like,
Yes.
a plot, like we just added an acre to our farm that was behind our farm. It's like another half of a block that became available, and we felt like we had the capacity to start working. So yeah, it was very interesting to kind of see. It's not much different. Obviously, different language and some different crops, but more similarities than differences.
Okay. And any specific techniques you saw that they were using? Because every so often I'll see some video from Japan and they're doing something really crazy, and I'm assuming that's on some of the larger farms.
Yeah, so I didn't see too many different techniques and from what we did, but I did just notice like some of the tools they use I've never seen here. They had their Japanese, like I know a Japanese style hoe as like the hand hoe, like the little scythe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Theirs was a little bit different. It was actually it looked like a traditional hoe, but more slanted. And it was really, they almost used it as a shovel. And so they would kind of just like I helped them pull some row cover over their crops. And to bury the row cover, they were just using that slanted hoe and just kind of pulling the dirt back. And yeah, like even their high, not high tunnels, but the row cover they were using, it was more like a high tunnel. Like it was a little bit different. And they would put the row cover over the pipes.
Okay.
Or what do you call it? Yeah, I never know what to call those.
So there's different ones. If it's like a low tunnel, then it's usually like a 1/2-inch conduit or actually piping. If it's like just a row cover hoop, that's just we usually say that's just metal. It's kind of the size it is in the field.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, just that thin metal, and that's what we use too. But then so they would put the row cover over the metal, and then actually use stakes, and then like kind of crisscrossing from. Like they would crisscross the stake to hold and use a material to hold that down, like a rope. Yeah. To hold that down. I had never seen that before either.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So again, like really similar to how we farm here in Michigan, but definitely a couple tools and techniques that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, what does the next couple of years hold for the farm?
Man, one thing I realized is to have the impact that we want to have in farming, we have to have more practitioners. We have to have more people who care about this, who, look at farming as a serious career path. And part of that is there has to be more opportunities and inspiration to do that. So one big thing that we're doing this year is our Farm Squad program has actually evolved into what we're calling Project Feast.
Okay.
And it stands for Food, Education, and Agricultural Systems Training. And the idea is it's a 10-week program. And the idea is to bring people through this program, give them a ton of exposure to the local food system, whether it's really all across the supply chain. So marketing, distribution, production. And showing these kids like, hey, you can plug into the food system, to agriculture in many ways. It's not just breaking your back in the field with a hoe, right? Like and if you want to do that, that's great too. Like there's ways to do that too. So yeah, that's the idea, man. Like Michael, I tell people I want to see Taco Bell sourcing locally. And people kind of laugh at that, right?
Yes.
But I say that to show like that's where we are, and we are ambitious about it. And I think that's what it's going to take to make it interesting enough for kids to want to take on some of these problems that we're coming up against now. And I say that, somewhat jokingly, but I mean, seriously, like when I go to a school and I see a Gordon food service truck or a Cisco truck there, and I know that food is not quality, I know it wasn't grown the right way, I know that it's really harming our bodies rather than healing it. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And so I want to, the next couple of years, that's really what we're working towards. How can we make local food the norm? How can we get more practitioners into our local food system so that we can, co-create these incredible and robust local food systems, that's healing soil, right, on a mass scale, and producing nutrient-dense food that's actually healing people rather than harming them. And so yeah, man, we're doing that in the best way that we know how to. We definitely don't have all the answers, and we don't, we're gonna have it's a trial and error thing for us. But we're committed, and that is a focus of ours going into these next couple of years, is creating more practitioners, in an effort and just being transparent, even to grow our own team, right? Like educating people, they can come join our team, and of course, go to other farms or even start their own business if they would like. But yeah, man, just growing more farmers, and similar, I believe, to what you do. I was checking out, your programming and things like that. And I think that's a great way to have the impact that we're looking for, I believe.
Yeah. What would your advice be to someone who's interested in getting into farming?
Man, so it's a lot. I would say know what you want to do, know the impact that you want to have. You don't exactly have to know how you're going to do it, but I would say try to be as specific as possible about what you want to do, because that's why I was thankful. I got to see nonprofit farming. I got to see for-profit farming. I got to see rural, urban, And so I think having a good idea of really what you want to do, what you want your life to look like, is great advice, because it's easy to just say, I want to farm. And then, now next thing you know, you wake up and you're, miserable because you're trying to keep up with this farm that, maybe isn't exactly what you envisioned, or it's not working out for this, that, or whatever reason. So yeah, I think just know what you want to do, and then go for it. Just go for it. Put yourself out there. Make the relationships. I can't stress that enough. Like, the network that I have is truthfully the only reason I was able to do this as fast as I have been, right? Like, I would like to believe I would still have done it anyway, because I was, very passionate about it, and I, sought it out. But the network that I have, putting myself out there, not being afraid to look stupid or fail in public, really has sped things up and put me in a great position. And yeah, I think that is a big thing too, is like, if you're, in an area, and I mean, like, man, some of the looks that I got even from my family, right? When I say, like, I want to be a farmer. Yeah. Like, they don't know how to react to that sometimes. And you have to be okay with that, and you have to be willing to be that pioneer. Because I know there's a lot of people that could be listening that don't know where to get started, or feel like they might get laughed at, or might not have the support. But I would just advise, like, fight through that. Be willing to look stupid. Be willing to, my family called me, like, eating like a rabbit and all this, whatever, like, be willing to just go through that. Find your people, build your network. Knowing what you want to do and knowing where you want to be, and just work hard. Work hard towards it.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. Do you have a favorite farming tool?
That's a great question, man. I'll probably have to go with the scuffle hoe. Go with the scuffle. It's so versatile. Got me through a lot of tricky situations. So yeah, I would have to go with that for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Devon, and appreciate you sharing about your farm story. And it's taken you places. It's cool to hear your kind of travels, and just all the awesome things that it's bringing to your community.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on the podcast, Michael. And right back at you, man. I just want to shout you out for, being a pioneer in this industry and creating, this awesome podcast that helps so many people out. Your platform's amazing. What you do is amazing. And this opportunity is incredible. So thank you, man.
Oh, thank you.
So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.